if I can pull my ego out of the way and talk about something that's scary as shit to talk about, maybe someone else gets to see or listen to that podcast and go, you know what, if she did, so can I. Like, wait a second, I don't have to be miserable all my life. Yes, it's humbling as shit to go back and relive stuff that I am so not proud of. But again, it's made me who I am today. And today I cannot tell you how much I love myself, how proud I am of myself. And should I die tomorrow, I'm like, you know what? I'm proud of me.
You're listening to Femcanic Garage, the podcast that features women in the automotive and motorsports industries. A community that elevates, empowers, and evolves by smashing stereotypes and breaking down barriers for women. I'm your host, Jamie Blossman. Buckle up for the ride, Femcanics. Barbie the Welder is in the driver's seat today. She is an author, teacher of welding via her YouTube channel, influencer with over 62,000 Instagram followers, but most impressive is how she has become a world-renowned metal sculptor, creating sculptures for Miller Welders, Carolina Shoe Company, Harley-Davidson, and other major companies. Barbie pulls back the curtain and shares her struggles throughout her journey. Sit back and enjoy the ride. Hello, Femcanics. This is Jamie B coming to you, and I have Barbie the Welder in the hot seat today. How are you doing today, Barbie?
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful for it.
I'm actually excited that on last minute we decided to do video with this as well. So who knows? We may all get a surprise and see some video to see our my fat head with a big fat microphone in front of my face, and Barbie with her cool-ass garage and all her goodies in the background there. So, Barbie, thank you so much for hopping on here and taking the time to spend with the Femcanic community to share a little bit about your story. A lot of the community already knows about Barbie the Welder. I don't know how you can't. You are all over social media and the internet. The audience knows a little bit about you, but what I'd like to do is just kind of back up a little bit and dig into kind of before you became a welder. And we talked a little bit about this, and there was another podcast where you decided to kind of pull back the curtains and allow yourself to be vulnerable around some of your past. And before we started the interview, I asked you if you're open to the idea of doing that again for the Femcanic community, because it was very, very powerful. I saw the Instagram post that you made, and I'm like, wow. I literally got goosebumps when I read it. And I'm like, you had cool points with me before, and it just went off the charts for me, because anyone can have a facade, but you got real, you got raw, and you got vulnerable. And I have so much respect for you for doing that. And I'm going to shut my mouth because I'm just babbling now. But can we kind of take a step back before you became a welder and pull back the curtain a little bit to see, kind of give us that journey of how you arrived at becoming a welder?
How far back do you want me to go?
Have you always wanted to be a welder?
No, actually. So welding, I was actually introduced to welding in BOCES. When I was in high school, I was actually in the alternative high school. The kids, for the bad kids, I'll put quote marks in the air because they're not bad. They just don't learn the traditional way, and they're bored, speaking for myself. But the high school I was at was for the kids that couldn't handle themselves in a traditional school. But it was lucky enough to be on the campus. We call it BOCES. It's a vocational educational program. And so the kids would go there for auto mechanics, body work, small engines, there's cooking, there's CAD, there's all these different programs that usually during your junior or high school year, you can choose and go half a day to. And while I was over in that school, like that was my school full time because that's where our school was. There's actually a welding class in there, and I just kind of stand at the window. There's like this, like the little school door window. I just stand at the window and kind of stare. I didn't know you weren't supposed to. But it was just mesmerizing to me. That was the first time I ever seen welding. but I wasn't, oh my God, I want to do that. It was just something that I'm just like, this is cool. What is that?
Even though you burned out the retinas of your eyes.
I know, right? I was actually lucky to not burn out my retinas. I'm sure there was a sign on the door that said, don't look at the arc, but I'm that person, right? Like the signs mean nothing to me. I'm like, oh, rules are made to be broken. I saw it there, but it just wasn't something like my first love was auto mechanics. And my goal from probably like 13 or 14 was to own my own garage. It's just something that like my dad was a diesel mechanic. And so I grew up watching him working on these big army trucks. And it was just so appealing to me that, and I loved working with my hands. Like from a young age, my dad would have me with him. And so with him being my hero, I just wanted to go into auto mechanics like my dad, who was my hero.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. I know you used air quotes around that's where the bad kids go, right? I don't know how old you are, Barbie, but I'm 41 years old, and when I was in high school, that was kind of the stigma around it, right? Because it was pounded into my brain, you know, graduate from high school and go to college. And I tell everyone now that if I were to go back and do it all over again, I'm not sure I would do that. I think I would go the trade school route, and I would want to do something that's working more with my hands, because I was recently diagnosed with ADHD. And when I look back on my my childhood, it became clear to me like, oh my God, that's why I struggled with those things.
Let me touch on something real quick, because I don't want to get it misconstrued. The BOCES classes that were up there, they weren't for the bad kids. The BOCES classes were on this campus, but also so was the school for the bad kids. Anyone in high school went to those classes, and I hope I didn't get that twisted. I didn't mean to like mix that up. The school that I went to was for the kids that got kicked out of regular school, just happened to be on the same campus as the BOCES classes were.
Got it.
It wasn't, so I apologize if I screwed that one up.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Did you end up getting kicked out of school then?
Oh yeah, I was kicked out of school long before I went to BOCES.
Okay.
So I got kicked out of Horseheads High School. I got kicked out of Horseheads in 10th grade and got sent up to the school for the bad kids that year, right around midterms. And before finals that year, I actually got kicked out of the school for the bad kids as well.
Can you share, I guess, why you originally got kicked out of school?
It was a bunch of stuff put together, but when I was in my original school, I actually went to school to drink. And we're talking, again, this is 10th grade, so 14 years old. My buddy would bring in a bottle of Jack Daniels, and I had cigarettes because I was buying cigarettes at the time. They weren't as strict as they are today. But I was actually going to school, and before homeroom in the morning, I was sitting in the stall of the girls' room, and I was drinking Jack Daniels and smoking cigarettes like a grown-ass little woman.
Wow.
But that actually didn't even get me kicked out. Sometime in there, and my timeline's a little fuzzy because of what I've done in my life. I work hard to keep my shit straight with times, but sometime during, I believe it was 10th grade, I also, I overdosed on speeders. I was in class part of the time, and when I was there, I was an asshole. And when I wasn't there, I'm, outran on the roads. I would skip school and go over the, I was miserable in school. I didn't fit in with the kids. I like cars from an early age, so jeans and t-shirts and steel toe boots. It has literally been what I wore for the kids that are popular in school. They had a heyday with me.
So you were regularly bullied?
Up until, I think it was about 14 when I finally stood up to a girl that was bullying me. I just got bullied from the time I was a little kid, like real little, got bullied. And 14, I think, is the first time I ever stood up to one. And it was probably one of the best days of my life, and still stands to this day, because it was just such a freeing moment, because I felt like she backed off. Because when I finally stood up to her, she was just like, this is a proud, right? She didn't want any more. And so, like, ever since that, like, the kids that got off the bus that day, everyone got to see it. So everyone know, don't Barbie,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But it took me years to get like finally snapped. And there was actually a lot of stuff that was just a rough day altogether. If I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna go down fighting, kind of thing.
Right. You were in high school. You were kicked out of high school. Then you went, it was like a vocational school.
No, it was just called alternative high school.
Alternative high school.
So it's alternative high school is if you can't handle yourself in a normal school environment, we have an alternative for you. It's where all the kids in the area that couldn't handle themselves in a regular high school, it was the kids that were skipping school, the kids that were the attitude problems, stealing, drugs, like they just took all of us and put us in one school from all the kids in the school district. So like from I think 4 different high schools ish, somewhere around in there. So I showed up there thinking I was Barbie badass, and I was sadly mistaken because I just like to skip school.
What sent you down that path?
A lot of stuff. So it started out with really low self-esteem and getting bullied. I found drugs. I started smoking at 9 years old, smoking cigarettes. I found drugs and alcohol probably around 13-ish, somewhere around in there, and fully embraced it because it was escape from me hating myself. It was a way for me to distance myself from people, but it was also, I don't know if it's a facade is the right word, but basically it was my hard candy shell.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want no one to come in, and I looked like a little badass, like drinking in the school bathroom at 13 and 14, like, where's my Jack Daniels? And kids kind of gave me a wide berth when I started doing shit like that. Showing up at class drunk and doing the drugs and stuff. It started, like, people started leaving me alone a little bit, and so I embraced that. Going over to the other school, I got over there, and like there's kids that were like violent. I just wanted to be left alone, really. Like that was my whole thing, is just like, just leave me the fuck alone. I've had it, it's just, I hated myself and I hated other people. And so doing all that stuff was just like, I was just drowned in the feelings and building the wall.
In that alternative school, you ended up getting kicked out of as well. Is that correct?
I did. So that one, I went over there and I continued doing the drinking and stuff. But at the time, I'd run away probably a couple of times. And I was just a miserable kid in general. My parents are really great people. I love them very much. But I was an ass and showed up, you know what I'm saying? Like just showed up with an attitude and everything else, and nothing they could do to fix it. Well, I like to ram the roads. I have been a freedom-based person since I was born. And so, like, I like to come and go as I please. I wanted to hang out with my friends, and I'd already, like, missed a bunch of school because of either running away or being locked up from being arrested or whatever it was. And they're just like, you miss another day and you're going to have a problem. Like, you're going to get kicked out. And my friend was going to a party, decided to go to the party, got in a physical altercation with my dad over wanting to leave, which I'm like 14. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have whooped my ass. And my kids ever pull that shit on me, you know what I'm saying? But me and my dad had a physical altercation. My friend's dad came and picked me up, took us to the party, and sat down to the party, got, hammered drunk. And because that's what I did, and missed school the next day. I showed up at maybe like 1:30 in the afternoon when I could pry myself off the floor. And they were just like, you're going to go and sit in the ISS, which is in-school suspension. Sat in there, and they're like, come into before the end of the day, and they're like, we got to let you go. We can't have you in school if you're doing this. So they kicked me out in 10th grade, and I actually tried. I like for my entire 10th grade year, I had half a credit for like both schools for the entire. So I, wasted a whole year there. But I wanted to go into, like, my only thought, because my dad was military, like, so he worked for the Army, and I'm like, I want to go into the military. Like, that was what I thought was like the answer to, I can get an education there. Like, I can go shoot guns. I can, like, go serve. I can get jacked up. And, you know what I'm saying? Like, like I said, my dad was my hero. So I'm like, I want to be like him. And so I was thinking of going to the Air Force and like Ranger school and cool shit. And I called them, and they're just like, yeah, you need a high school education. I'm like, well, that ruins that. I'm like, well, now what I'm supposed to do? So I spent a pretty aimless summer just being an ass and drinking and stuff. But I ended up going back to school. I don't know how I talked myself into it or if my mom talked him into it or how it happened, but I ended up back in 11th grade. And the thing is, at the time, I wanted auto mechanics, and that was part of the reason I was such an asshole in school. Is I wanted auto mechanics because the BOCES courses had auto mechanics, and I went to them in like 9th or 10th grade. I'm like, what do I need to do to get into auto mechanics? And they're basically like, it's for the boys. Like, don't you think cosmetology or cooking would be better? No. He said, I still can't do my hair. This is the extent of me doing my hair. I can braid it every now and then. Like, I've learned to braid my hair. Yeah, I wanted auto mechanics. It's just what I love. I love engines and motors and anything that goes fast. And you know what I'm saying? Like, just sign me up. Like, lawnmower races, like, I'm there. Like, I just love racing cars and motors. They were just totally sexist about it. So finally, like I hit that, because that was one of the reasons I'm just like, screw you guys. Like, you're not going to get me what I want. I'm just going to be the bane of your existence. I'm an overachiever no matter what I do, right? If I'm being good, I'm being really good. If I'm being bad, like, I'm even better. Yeah, 11th grade, I'm like, I wanted the auto mechanics really bad. And they're like, finally, after 80 times of being sexist with me, they're just like, get your shit together and we'll put you in auto mechanics next year, but you have to have these credits. And so I do believe this is how it went. 11th grade, I got my shit together because I wanted auto mechanics and I'd do whatever it took. I got the highest grades in the school 3 semesters running. I had the highest grades in a school 2nd, 3rd, and 4th semester.
Wow.
Because I wanted the auto mechanics. I'm capable. I'm a smart girl. Give me motivation, right? Because I'm just like, you're going to treat me like an asshole. I'm going to give you an asshole. Like, that's just, like the whole attitude behind it. I got my crap together. I was still partying, but I just, on a level where I'm like, I'm just going to go to school and handle my shit because I want that. And then in between 11th and 12th grade over the summer, I got pregnant for my oldest son. Also made me really, really reflect on, like, I've got someone else responsible for now besides myself. I went back my senior year, got auto mechanics, and brought my baby to school.
That's awesome. How did having him change you? I
still had the depression, and I still, while I was pregnant, I behaved myself, but after I gave birth to him, I was still smoking weed on a daily basis. The drinking, occasionally, I'd wait for him to go to bed and would party, but it was such a huge challenge. His dad was never there. I got pregnant, and it was a one-night stand.
You were what, 17, 16?
I was 16 when I got pregnant. I was 17 when I had him. Because, I was making wise decisions at that age. But, the dad just was never there. And so I was physically, emotionally, and financially available or responsible for a human being at 17 years old. And I wasn't even responsible enough to handle my own shit. I got was it a full-time job? Jesus Christ. I got a full-time job my senior year. So I was going to school full-time. And I was working 5 days a week, stocking shelves. And so, I would leave school. I'd have my son with me in school because I was already at the school where they had a daycare program. And so, I'd bring him in the morning. We'd have breakfast together. We'd have lunch together. And then, my mom would come pick me up after school, and they would drive me to the grocery store. They would watch my son while I worked until 11 o'clock at night and then start all over again the next day.
Do you ever look back and wonder how you did it?
Yes. Yes.
And I want to address this because
yes, I do.
Because you're being very open and vulnerable about these things, and being a parent now, and you're a parent. When a child acts a certain way, society judges the parent.
Oh yeah.
And I want to
totally fair.
I want to give some space and talk a little bit about your parents. I don't want anything unjustly to be put out there and people make assumptions. Yeah. And I know this interview is about you, and part of you is your childhood and your parents. Oh, yeah. You sounded like a hellion. If you think about it, Barbie, and how many children do you have?
I have 2 boys.
2 boys. If you had a girl and the girl did what you did, right, as a parent, Is there anything that you want to say about your parents so that the audience understands? As a parent, I'm sitting there thinking, it's like, shit, it's like, oh my God, I don't know what I would do. Like, there's me and thinking of my childhood self that wants this freedom. And then there's me as a parent right now sitting there thinking, my God, I don't know how to help my child. Because you had mentioned just once depression. And I don't want to make an assumption, but when you were, this is a question, when you were in high school, did you suffer from depression during that time?
Looking back, I had depression from a really young age. I think long before I hit high school, actually. Starting off with my parents are amazing human beings. They actually tried for 10 years to have me and were told by several doctors that they couldn't have kids. And my mom didn't give up, and my dad didn't give up. And 10 years later, after going through surgeries and everything else, naturally had a baby. Guess who shows up?
Surprise!
The worst surprise. And it's just like, I feel like the worst kid in the world. We both did, or we all did the very best we could with what we had. So growing up, my parents wanted to give me the most amazing life ever. My parents read all the Dr. Spock books. My mom ended up becoming a vegetarian because she read that the food and before it was cool, right? So I was born in 76. Just to put it out there, I'm 44 years old. My mom did homeschooling before it was cool. My mom did what's it called? Composting and she's just so Little House in the Prairie. My mom made my clothes for me, sewed it, everything that you could think of that a parent that loves a child would do, and some stuff that I love my kids. I want to sew clothes.
I'm with you.
You know what I'm saying? Here's my jeans. You know what I'm saying? I can't even keep a whole pair of jeans on. But with love and with the most beautiful and purest intentions, my parents just did all these things to honor their children and give their children the best possible life ever. Okay, so here's this, on a pedestal, right? And then here comes this literally this feral little girl that you can't keep shirt on me, you can't keep shoes on me. I want to play in the woods. I just am literally came out like a feral little wolf. I need freedom, and I don't understand it. It's just such a I like I said, I wish I had better words for it, but I did, it came out of the womb like Braveheart, screaming freedom. I just need to roam the woods and play. And my mom and dad are
Barbie, you need to make a little cartoon of yourself.
oh God, little wild Helen. Have you guys ever seen the book Where the Wild Things Are? I'm Max. That's me. I'm Alice in Wonderland, and I'm Max from Where the Wild Things Are. This is just who I am, and it's no one's fault. It's just it's a shuffle of the deck, of who you get for parents and who you get for a kid, and just their need to protect me was the last thing in the world that I want. At 5 years old, I ran away for the first time with my little red wagon filled with underwear and a stuffed doll, because I'm just at 5 years old. And listen, there's never been any malice on my part. It's just this is just who I am. And they just wanted to, protect me. And so, it started out with they give me my haircuts, and the kids in the neighborhood came from. We literally lived next door to the principal of the school, and then we were in a teacher neighborhood. But here's my mom, I want to give my kid the best education and wants to homeschool me. I want to protect them from the big bad world, and everyone saw me as a freak. She gets her haircut, at home. Her mom makes her clothes. Everything that my mom and dad wanted to do, these kids look at it and they're like, what the f- is wrong with this girl? I didn't get invited to any of the neighborhood kids' parties, and I just wanted to go to a kid's, birthday party. I wanted to be part as a young kid, I just wanted to fit in. I wanted to go out and play, and my parents just kept me separated. So I had zero social skills, plus the bowl cut, literally, I've got pictures.
I had a mullet, Barbie. Oh man, I rocked the mullet. It was bad.
My 5th grade. I had the mullet perm in 5th grade. I got pictures of the
Oh yeah, you got the perm?
Oh, the mullet perm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we all have that elementary school picture that is glorious.
Oh man. Oh, it is. Glorious is such a great word for it. The mullet's coming back on watching it, but I'm not gonna rock that. I'm just gonna stay right there. I love my hair. But yeah, like my childhood, like my parents had the just best, purest, like just just so pure intentions. And just me naturally being me, I'm just like, like I said, I was born feral. Is it like oil and water? We just didn't mix. And it was just like, I know they loved me and I know I loved them. And yeah, they got judged harshly.
Yeah.
I'm sure the neighborhood probably tore them a new asshole too, you know? And it's just, but I was in my own little world of just like, you know, I did get to go to school in 5th grade. And like the kids were just so mean. And like, you know, like I said, I had zero social skills because I got to see my cousins and I got to see, you know, my family, but it was like so rare to see my cousins. So like, just like when I finally did hit school, they ended up moving us halfway through 5th grade for me. So I was 10. They moved me up to another school. And within like 2 weeks of going to that school, I catch lice from whoever. And like, then I was like, you know, to solve that, my mom just buzzes my hair. I'm like, fuck's sake, you know what I'm saying?
You're like,
I'm just going to do drugs and just, you know, and I just like, that was the answer. Like, but I was depressed because of what's our first human need, and that's to fit in. And I just didn't, right? It was the bane of my existence. Working with my hands in my shop, like that was my escape, right? Because like my mom was riding my ass for stuff, and I get it, like as a parent now, dude, they should have put bigger boots on and stomped a mud hole in my ass, which they tried. It said, God, I think I was like 12 or 13 the first time I ran away. And it's just like, there wasn't even any malice behind it. Again, it was just like, you guys are putting your thumb on me, man. I just need some freedom. Like 8 o'clock bedtime for a 12-year-old. I'm like, whatever grade I was in, I'm just like, dude, I can't do this. I just need to go. I can't have you ride my ass. I'm so sick and tired of you telling me, you know, like it was a perfect storm of like my kids can't get away with shit because I know, like I used to sneak out of my bedroom window and like go down to my friend's house, you know?
you're like, you cannot trick the tricksters, kids.
Yeah. And you know what? Like both times I got pregnant, I'm like, boy, 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 boy. Because it's just like I knew who I was. And I was like, there's no way. I'm like, I'd kill a girl. Like, you know what I'm saying? But it was just like, you know, looking back, I'm so grateful for my boys. A little girl would have been pretty amazing, right? Because like steel toes and jeans, I would have taught her to be a tough girl and we'd be like making shit in the garage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, both my boys turned out really, really good, even though, like I said, I was 16 when I got pregnant for my oldest son. Like, he's 27 today, man. Just turned 27 at the beginning of this month. Best thing that's ever happened to me is be a parent, right? It slowed me down. Not all the way, right? Because it took me, God, it was like 8 or 9 when I really started getting my shit together. I went through some really bad shit when he was a kid. And he went through all this stuff with me. Figured, you know, his dad wasn't around. And this young man, we basically grew up together. It was my best friend who never had to go home.
Wow.
Which finally, you know what I'm saying? Like, unconditional love for the first time in a long time. I felt unconditional love when I had him. So he was like my savior for a long time. But because I was so mature, like really raised him as my best friend. And so like I wasn't strict. Like, I mean, like, yeah, he had a lot of responsibilities. You know, at 5 years old, like I taught him to do his laundry, which he started at 3, but at 5 he was completely responsible for his laundry. Because I'm like, here's the deal, dude. Like I've got to work. I've got to do this. I've got to handle the bills. Like you handle your stuff. I'll handle my stuff, and we're gonna have a lot more time together if you do it. But like made it fun. So like he was very responsible at a young age, but he'd also be like at 5 years old, he's like, hey, can I say shit? I'm like, not in front of Grandma and Grandpa. So we walked that line.
You mentioned depression. Do you still struggle with depression? How did you work your way through that? Because there's going to be listeners where it's like, I feel this now, and it just feels hopeless, and I feel helpless. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. Because when people look at your stuff now, Barbie, there are tons of people that I'm sure are so impressed, maybe jealous, maybe envious, where it's like, oh my God, she's doing all of these things, getting to work with her hands, but all of it's a journey, and people oftentimes just see the end result and not the struggle. And that's why I respect, and that's why I'm spending more time on this, because any of the listeners can go to your social media page, Facebook, you name it, read your book, all of these things, and see where you are at now. But what I want people to understand is that there is struggle. Every journey has a struggle, and there is no shame in it.
Yeah, if you look at my social media now, my life is a sizzle reel. It's very surreal. But like you said, it was struggle. I didn't know that I was depressed until I was hospitalized for, I'm going to say, my drug addiction. I turned myself in to a couple of friends who I had take me to the hospital because I was so deep into cocaine that I was hearing voices. That's a good story. But once I got into the hospital, and like I said, I don't know the exact timeline, but I don't know how long I was in the hospital for, but sometime during my stay there, and I'm going to go on the hard side of assumption and say it was definitely a couple months, but I can't remember exactly how. I feel like some point I need to just get hospital records and look and see how long it is. I don't know if they would give them to me, but whatever. I was actually in the BSU, the behavioral science unit. When they went to sober me up, they had to put me in like this lockdown section because I was really messed up, and that's an understatement. I couldn't write my name.
Was this before or after your son was born?
Yeah, he was 6 years old.
Got it.
He was 6 years old, and at a point I'd actually, and this is actually before I got into cocaine, I was just doing weed. Got long story longer. Broke up with my husband, who was violent against my son. I left him that day. I said, no more. Went to my mom and dad's house and said, we need to move in. We cannot live with my husband anymore because he's violent towards my son. She told me, he can live here and you can't. And I don't know why. I still to this day don't know why. I have no clue.
Have you ever asked her?
I can't remember if I have or not. It just doesn't make any sense to me, right? Her and I butted heads a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I love her with all my heart. She's an amazing human being. But we haven't always seen eye to eye. I'm not exactly sure why. But damn, if my kid came to my door and said that, they'd be living here without even thinking. But we're also two different people. And we're two different parents, right?
I'm sorry, Barbie. I'm just curious. You said that your ex-husband was violent towards your 6-year-old son?
Yes. He kicked him like a football. And so I left. That was the first and only time that he went and put hands on him like that. And
what?
There was no like, hey, let's try to work it out. I said, I'm fucking out of here. Locked myself in the bathroom until I can get him off of me. And then we moved out that day.
I had to back up on that when I heard that, because you just continue to impress me. And there's something to be said for that, right? That is an abusive relationship, and to not make an exception. I want to give you kudos for this, because when your willingness to open up and share this stuff, even though you were in the space that you were in, as a parent, you didn't allow any exception for your son, meaning as it relates to protecting him. And kudos for you.
True on that, and I appreciate it very much. But the next part of the story is me leaving my son at my mom and dad's house because I knew I couldn't take care of him. And so, like, I feel like, I'm trying not to. It was, I don't know. I tried living with him in my car for a couple of days, but knew he needed to be in school. And leaving it at my mom and dad's was. When I left my husband, I didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. I threw our stuff in our truck and left. So I wasn't in a position financially to get us an apartment or even anything else. So like leaving him at my mom's, after a couple of days was what I felt was what the best thing was, which it is what it is. Hate myself for it, like fucking hated myself for it because I wasn't smarter about finances. I didn't think about having money set aside. I didn't, and like here, like I'm his only parent that's in his life, and I leave him with grandma and grandpa, and all of a sudden now his mom's gone. Scumbaggery of all scumbaggery. But it is part of who I am. It's part of his and my story. We couldn't have a better relationship today, and like it took me months to get him back after that. And leaving him there and the guilt behind A, marriage not working, and then B, not being able to provide for my son is what led me to the cocaine abuse. My thought was,
Your husband that you left was not his biological father, is that correct?
he was not his
Okay.
biological father. No, I had him before I had him before I got married.
Okay. And that's ultimately what started the guilt around that, is what started the cocaine abuse.
Yes. I looked at the coke as a means to an end. My goal, my brilliant fucking thinking in all of this was I'm going to buy coke and I'm going to sell it because I had a little bit of money. So I was like, I can buy it, I can sell it, I can make enough money quickly and then be able to get a place for me and my kid. And it didn't work out like that. I broke cardinal rule number 1 of selling drugs, and that's don't get high in your own supply. I sold a little bit of it. I did some bartering for it, but I really enjoyed it. And so I got into it really freaking heavy, and like every penny I'd make with it, I'd turn around and I'd get more. And in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, I will go and sell this, but it just never turned out like that. And so I did that. My friend had, like where I was living, like I ended up living in the woods. My buddy of mine had weed. My other friend had liquid acid, and I had the coke, and the three of us just kind of hung out in the woods, and people would come and see us and buy shit sometimes, but mostly it'd be the three of us living in the woods and just getting messed up.
How long did your son stay at your folks' house then? There's this period of time, and then you said you got to the point where you checked yourself in for rehab, and you think maybe it was a couple months in there, or?
Yeah, I think a couple of months. Yeah, it was definitely, oh man. It was warm. So I'm going to guess like, because he was still in school, so I'm going to guess like May or June-ish. Because he was, like I said, he was still in school, but it was warm enough for us to be outside, and this is upstate New York. So I'm going to say it was like May or June. And then he was in school when I got him back. And I'm going to say that was like early fall. So there's a good 6-month period. So between, like give or take, about a good 5 or 6 month period between the time I started the coke, got into it so heavily, which like I said, I was doing other stuff as well. I was doing the acid. I've been smoking weed pretty much since I can remember, probably since I was like 13, and drinking since around then. So like, all that, but like then the coke and the acid on top of all the stuff that I was doing. And this wasn't just like, oh, tonight's coke and tomorrow. It was just like everything at once.
Mm-hmm.
Hated who I was, hated the fact that I left my son, hated that I didn't have a way to make money. I did, but I screwed that one up. Just depression on top of all that other stuff, and then adding the drugs on top of the depression, and just basically sat out in the woods and felt real fucking sorry for myself for a while, and barely survived. Like just barely survived that.
Have you and your son ever talked about any of that?
Yeah, I'm very open with him about that. We have an amazing relationship today. He is actually one of the main reasons I'm still a full-time artist, because even, I don't always make the best decisions. So probably like four years ago, so about a year and a half into being a full-time artist, 4.5, somewhere around in there, I got into a relationship with a guy who used me for my money. He saw it. He saw me cashing in my money for my work. He saw that I had a nice chunk of money and used me and then beat me up when he was done using me for my money. And if it wasn't for my son taking me in, I wouldn't have my business, but literally just like took me in. Yeah, 4.5 years ago. So I'm much better today. I stayed single for a long freaking time after that.
But now, when you say he beat you up, like literally, physically roughed you up?
Picked me up and put me into a windshield of a car.
Why?
He was done using me. My money was gone, and that was his way of getting rid of me.
Jesus.
That's the first time I talked about that one. Yeah, low self-esteem is a bitch. Even though like got through all the drug addiction and everything else, and that was a pivotal moment for me. So I've had quite a few pivotal moments in my life. Still was dealing with self-esteem problems. Like I said, I was about doing math because it was like probably like 6 months after being a full-time artist. So we're talking 2015, like spring of 2015, right? So I was about 6 months or so about being a full-time artist. The job I'd left, I actually was dating a guy from there when I went full-time, but he was, oh man, I'm trying to think of the right word. He saw it, right? I had low self-esteem. I was in my welding. I'd gotten better with the welding. Welding had definitely helped, but I still was suffering from low self-esteem. And because of my childhood, because of all that I went through, I just always wanted to be loved, wanted to fit in, wanted to be, and so I took that into relationships. I had bad relationship after bad relationship after bad relationship, and he was no different. Saw that I cashed in my money and had dollar signs in his eyes and played me like a fiddle. Looking back, I had like all these signs that like he didn't give a flying rat's ass about me, but my need to be loved was so great that I ignored all these things. And he pretty much took a large chunk, and this, like I said, I've never even talked about this, took a large chunk of the money that I had saved for my business. And he's like, you can move in with me, help me pay for this apartment above, like we're going to make this apartment above my garage. I have a 2-car garage. You can rent your house out to your son. And then your mortgage is covered there. You can have a bigger place to work in and we'll have an apartment together. And so hook, line, and sinker, that's exactly what I did is I rented my house out to my son and his then girlfriend, moved my younger son with me up to another town, another school district, put my son in another school, physically helped him build his apartment above his garage. And pretty much when it was done, he had enough and just like literally picked me up and put me into the windshield of a car. And there was, like I said, there was signs like we bickered back and forth. There was definitely some verbal confrontations that we'd had. I split up with him twice, and like both times he came back to me like crying and was just like, "I'm so sorry," and I just such a fucking sucker. And like I said, not a sucker, I just wanted to believe him so bad. I just wanted to be loved. So like after that relationship, I'm just like I said, my son welcomed me back, and like I said, I was renting it out to them. Like he's like, you live here. There's no questions, He's like, this is your house. You live here, and we'll work it out. And, like we've all been together ever since. Like we like it this way. Like just keep our family real close. But had it not been for him, I would have lost everything. He helped me with my bills. Like helped me get back on my feet and helped me pay the mortgage of my house so I wouldn't lose that. But yeah, I stayed single for a while, and my new rule was one and done. Like if I break up with someone, I'll never ever go back out with them again. You just don't. And I've gotten farther I've gone, I guess, in between my business and my relationships. I've learned patience. I've also learned to watch people really closely. And if there's any sign whatsoever of aggression or like nasty attitude, they're gone. Like I don't play around with it. So if been single for quite a while. I did date someone, I think 6 months ago for a short time, but like quickly was just like, yeah, like I was good until it wasn't. And as soon as it wasn't, I'm done. I'll happily stay single for a while. I just got to make sure that I know now because I love myself and I didn't before. And so it was easy to fall into traps. I'm going to call them traps.
How did you fall in love with yourself? How did you get there?
Staying single.
There's something to be said for that. When my ex and I separated, I spent 3 years single. And it's figuring out who you are and falling in love with yourself.
It's owning it.
When we say falling in love with ourselves, like it's associated with selfishness. But it's not.
It's the opposite of it, actually, because you can't give what you don't have. So if someone wants me to be healthy and whole in a relationship, I need to love and respect myself before I can give that to anyone else. And if I'm going to go into a relationship, I want love and respect. And that's what I tell my business partners, anyone I get into business with, it's just like, this is a win-win or it doesn't happen. Same thing with a podcast, same thing with anything I do. If it's not a win-win, I'm not involved. I actually had a company reach out to me 2 years ago that wanted to sponsor me. They sent me product. They're a phenomenal company. Like, really, truly love them. But decided after, I think, 6 months, I'm like, I can't do you guys justice. Like, and they're the ones that are like, we want to, I'm like, I can't promote your product naturally in a way that, like, and I respect the product, but it just wasn't that, like, I didn't feel like I was giving as much as I was getting. And so I respectfully backed out of it. And like, they were appreciative of the fact that I'm just like, if I can't give you what I'm telling you, like, I can't, my business is so good today is because of that, because that's how I do all my, whether it's someone that's buying my art or buying a book, like, if you're not getting the value, then I'll happily give you your money back. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's not a win-win, I'm not involved.
So would you say the last 5 years is when you really exploded? As
far as my business?
Yeah.
Yes. And in the beginning, with all due respect, and it is what it is, it was fuck you fuel in the beginning. That guy that beat me up, part of my need to grow my business was fuck you, I'll show you what you're missing out on, and you should have treated me better. And look at what you got. Look at what you're missing. It's not healthy.
That's a great phrase. Fuck you fuel.
It's fuck you fuel. I feel like that's going to be the title of my next book.
It really should, Barbie.
There's a power in that. It's using no, and it's using anyone that's ever, like, I have a grocery list of men that have treated me so disrespectful. Now, and listen here, we're going to, full disclosure, I attracted them into my life. So therefore, if you're attracting people in your life that are negative, you need to look at yourself, because you can't get what you, I'm saying. I know people hate to hear that, but it's just like, I really had to take a look at my life.
No, I got you.
What is it about you, darling, that you are attracting these kind of people in your life? Like, we need to talk about this. We need to have a good conversation. I told you. But, it's like, and like being honest, like, right? My honesty was my salvation. Because when I was willing to have like these deeply honest conversations with myself, why are you attracted to a man that's going to treat you like this? Like, what have you been doing? What have you been thinking? That was where my superpower was. Now, for a long time, I'm attracting these people into my life. So I realized, like, what really helped me tremendously actually was I went out to a build with Bogey from All Girls Garage. She did this frame-up restoration of a 57 Chevy pickup truck. She had like this harebrained scheme to bring women from all over the country together to have this build.
The montage.
I was so freaking blessed to be a part of it. I basically hounded her and Miller until I got someone, and I was like, I need to be involved in this because my background in auto mechanics. I went out there and I spent a month living in her garage, and it's a really nice garage. So it's not, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, no, I got a bunk house.
Yeah.
The happy side blessing, because I went out there to help build a truck and to go back into the automotive industry on my terms and leave on my terms, instead of how I ended up leaving, which was sexism and frustration. I wanted to go back in, but the blessing of that was I spent a month with Bogey. side by side working, 16 and 18-hour days, pretty much 7 days a week on this for a month, that she mentored me. And I don't know if she realized at the time she was mentoring me, but this woman blessed me with so many pearls of wisdom. And one of my favorite things was I asked her, I'm like, how did you go from this woman built her business, this entire, like, just her legacy, like, from her driveway for 2 years, she worked in her driveway. Like, I complain about how small my shop is. She worked in her driveway. And I'm like, how did you do that? Like, how are you building this empire that you're building? And she says, self-help. She says, I went and I paid for courses to improve myself. And I'm like, okay, like, ta-da. So was I already reading the books? Again, my timeline. I believe I'd already started reading a couple of self-help books.
Do you remember what they were?
Yes, I still have them all. I have a library. I'm an avid reader. I highly advocate reading. And if you don't like to read, or if you're not good at reading, audiobooks, I love Audible. They're not paying me, but damn, I'm all about it. Audible, and if you can't do Audible, then go on and look at the videos, because they literally have, one of my favorite things on YouTube are animated book reviews. And you can get like a 200-page book, like, knocked down to 6 minutes with little cartoons, and they'll tell you the story of the book, and it's the key point.
Oh, wow.
Run that. I'm telling you, like, Audible. And if you guys want the links, like, let me know. I'll happily send you links to my favorites.
I may hit you up with that, Barbie, because I'm curious.
Oh, man. I have a library of books. Like, I have a core, probably like 12 that I can't get rid of, and I literally again and again and again, because it's just so amazing. I actually just Silence is the Key by Ryan Holiday. Ryan Holiday is probably my newest favorite author, but between him and Robert Greene are my two favorites. But the first book that I read, and the one that really just started everything on my journey for self-improvement, was Secrets to the Millionaire Mind.
That's a good one.
Harv Eker. So I actually got the book and had to borrow the 50 cents for the book from my mom at the library book sale, because that's where I was in my artistic journey, was borrowing 50 cents for a book. I actually borrowed $1. I got 2 books at that book sale. The other one's called Rhinoceros Success by Scott Alexander. That one's a brilliant book because it uses analogies, and I'm all about, like, I'm a visual learner, and so they've got adorable cartoons. So I'm actually friends with the author today of a book that I bought at the library book sale. Literally, it's just amazing. I'm the most amazing buy. I got The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind because I want to be a millionaire. Like, this is one of my goals. Like, when I got into art, it was to make art. That's it. I had no idea that there's money in art. I was shocked when I found out how much money there is in being an artist. Like, no kidding. But the purity of it, I got in it to make art. But I do want to be a millionaire someday, right? It's freedom. Yep. The money is a freedom, because it gets you experiences and adventures and opportunities, and that's where, like, I want to give my kids, like, an adventurous life. So I pick up this book, I start reading it, and there's, like, this ticket in it, and there's, like, physically a ticket, and it's like, you can get this free $2,000 seminar. And so, but you have to pay for your plane ticket and your hotel, right? And so, like, I read the book several times, and, like, every time I read it, I'm like, here's a ticket, and someday I'm going to go to this seminar. Well, after talking with Bobby's like, I did seminars. She's like, I didn't have the money for it, but I got a mentor and I did seminars. I'm like, okay. I go back home and I read the book again, and I'm like, you've got to do it, right? And it's a free seminar, like I said. So I went, and my whole purpose for that was to change my money mentality, because I have in the past had a welfare mentality for how I grew up. Money doesn't grow on trees. Who do I look like? Rockefeller,
oh, yeah.
Rich people are greedy. Like, I grew up with all these, like, taboo things around money. My parents are super frugal. Like, if my mom holds a penny, like, Lincoln's eyes bug out. Who she is. I love her for who she is. But I want to be a millionaire. I want a chef. I want 5 different vehicles. Like, I want my mud truck, and I want my lifted Jeep, and I want to build my motorcycle. I'm saying, like, and I want my dream shop. And, now, like, I want all these things. I want to be able to travel the world. And I want money to be no object when I do it. And I want to take my whole family. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to buy art from all the artists. I want to fill my home, So it's like money for me is freedom. Again, it goes back to my freedom. So I went and took these courses with the mindset of I want to raise my money mentality, because you can't be an artist and have this welfare mentality. It's not right, because I just didn't honor my art for a long time, like valuing it. I did it to get this money mentality, but come to find out the courses that they end up selling me $12,000, and it was worth every penny and so much more, which I couldn't afford, right? They gave me a payment plan and I still struggled deeply every time to pay for it. But I invested 12 grand in these courses because I saw the truth immediately when I went to the free course where they sell stuff. And I love it, right? I love salesmen. It's not about getting money. It's about serving people. I bought the courses with the intention of making money, and learned that their entire course is focused on service. And that's how you win at life. And that's how you actually become a millionaire, is you need to serve people with integrity. Just changed everything, right? I literally just like fell into this most just beautiful thing. And so I left with a mission, like a year and a half, and all these courses later, I walked on fire. Oh, some of the stuff I did was just incredible. They were amazing courses, like highly, highly recommended. But I left with a mission, and that's to inspire people to thrive emotionally and financially. And that's with me through art. But it also now has become, now that with the other podcast that I did, the mental health has now become something that is going to be on my mission. And it's just something I never even thought about, literally, until I know what I've done. I know that I'm a unicorn. And the fact that I went through the depression, and when I say depression, we're talking just severe depression. We're talking strapped to a gurney in a straitjacket, one flew over the cuckoo's nest, Thorazine shot in my ass, depression and anger and being locked up and told I would never, ever get out of the psych center. To today, I'm living a life that is beyond my wildest dreams. That I have made sculptures for Harley Davidson, that I literally, I choose what I do every day, and I don't do anything I don't want to. I am here with you because I want to be here with you. And if I didn't want to, I just say happily no. I'm honored that you would ask, but, I just don't have time. I say no to everything I don't want to do with the sculptures I'm making. I make exactly what I want and nothing else. I'm turning down so many commissions right now because they're not in alignment with the creatures and characters that I want to create. That are just feeding my soul. But knowing that, gone through this journey to go from absolute opposite ends of the spectrum, from absolute I cannot imagine being any more miserable to I can't imagine being any more happy. Literally, just the other day, I'm you know what? I know this story was coming out. I knew that I would do that podcast. We planned it for 4 months, I think it was. But as soon as it came out, and I got the reactions that I got from people, which is so supportive, and I was shocked. I actually thought I was going to lose a lot of people, and it turned out way different than I expected. Seeing the reaction and how many other people said welding has also saved my life, it immediately became apparent that this needs to be part of my mission. And this is how I'm going to help people thrive emotionally and financially, which just literally I just thought just by bringing people into the welding industry and showing people skilled trades and working with your hands gives you so much more than money.
It's even bigger than that, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. And just had no, everything happens for a reason. They contacted me for a reason. And just all these things, just been blessed beyond my wildest beliefs, but just and I've got a good imagination. It's just beyond anything I could ever imagine. But to be able to explain, I know how now that I've gone from the depression to where I am today, from negative relationships to I only accept the best. I only accept the best in my relationships. Anything less is unacceptable. I don't let anyone else in my life that is I don't get treated with disrespect. I don't put myself in places where I get treated with disrespect. And if I start dating someone and see something, I'm ghost. I kick rocks, and I'm okay with that because I love being single because I love myself. I love being around myself. And God, if you'd have told me that 5 years ago, I would have believed you.
Just an amazing story. And again, I know we haven't spent a lot of time on welding per se, and you summarized it just a moment. You are so well documented in that space, Barbie. And I mean, truly, you know, that's if you go to your social platform, that's what you see. And what I was really hoping to get, and what this shines through in this interview, is that it's so much more than that. And ladies, if you are struggling right now, depression is that silent killer, right? It's silent, and it's so taboo. No one wants to talk about it. No one. But it's
email me, I'll talk to you about it.
It's everywhere though, right? And you talk it, and it's not just depression, it's mental health, period. There is so much taboo. When I told my folks that, you know, I was just diagnosed last year with ADHD, that I have ADHD, and I shared it with my folks, and the only reaction was, "Oh, really?" Neither of them has said a single word about it since. Nothing. Like, it was like I didn't even say it. Through your story, Barbie, also my willingness to share about ADHD, adults do have it. Majority of adults, it was just undiagnosed. Is that there is no shame around it. There is no shame around it. We all experience it. And when you look on social media, this fairy tale life that you have right now, Barbie, is that it wasn't always fairy tale, and that the struggle is there, and it's okay, and you're not alone. You're not alone.
I think that's a message that so many people need to hear, and that's why my willingness to come out and talk about my mental health, and listen, I'm not going to recommend anyone do anything without a doctor's whatever, but I don't take medicine. I haven't. They told me I'd never get off of medicine, and I haven't taken medicine I'm going to venture a guess, at like 16-ish, 17 years. And like I said, I still was making poor choices. But then, that's a self-esteem thing. That wasn't a depression thing. I have to watch myself. I caught myself the other day, literally after I made that post. I freaked, the post I made Friday about my mental health, freaked out a little bit Friday. And I don't mean freaked out. I mean, just I'm fucking scared. It was scary to do that. That is every one of my skeletons. Hey, look at me naked. Here's literally and so it was a freaky thing. I needed to go hang out in the woods and spend some time with my friends and get away from my house. I didn't work Friday. I'd planned on it. I was just you know what? But I know now. And I think having the honesty with yourself, now I'll speak for myself. I'm not putting it on anyone else, but honesty with myself. So if I feel frustrated, or if I feel like I'm getting depressed, I know I need to change my music. I can put on a different playlist on my music, and it'll help my mood. If I'm feeling, like I said, I was scared the other day. It was just such a, ballsy. It was a ballsy move. I know it needs to be talked about. I know it's the right thing to do. It was scary as fuck to put that out there. And so I really did, I'm wringing my hands. It's not right. So I'll feel a little bit of anxiety about stuff. And I know when I feel, I'm okay, go drink some chamomile tea, Barbie. It'll help. But I know, I have stuff in place today that I know, I have a happy-go-lucky playlist that you can't tap can't not, dance to. It's just the super, super awesome mix volume 2. You know what I'm saying? Put it on your playlist. Get, Bob Marley, No Worries. I can play that song, and I literally just want to dance it out in my shop. And just being honest about, if I know that certain situations bum me out, then stay out of them. If there is, art, even if you don't feel like you're creative whatsoever, take a 10-pound thing of clay and squeeze it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's cathartic. Even if you can only roll that clay into a ball, it's cathartic. You've made a shape. Make a giant dip. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? Whatever, you know what I'm saying? Whatever you need to make. Oh my gosh. You're welcome. You're welcome, world. You know what I'm saying? But like sculpt it into something. If you can draw, like draw. If you can't draw, but you like to color, get some coloring pencils and get the coloring book with swear words in it. Those exist, right? Find some kind of outlet. Find something to focus on, because I can give you my experience when I focused on how awful my life was. You're literally pouring energy into that thought, which is just snowballing. And it just, then you feel bad for feeling bad. And then you're like, oh, my life is good. I shouldn't feel bad. Oh, I feel awful for feeling bad. And like, there's people that have it worse. You shouldn't feel, all that shit right there. When you're focused on all that, it literally downward spirals. If you're not feeling good, if you're not feeling happy, if you're not feeling, find some kind of creative outlet. For me, it's been art. Like I said, well, I haven't said in this interview, but I had zero artistic talent when I decided to be a metal sculptor. It's just what I decided to do, and I figured it all out.
Wow.
Zero. There was nothing. My handwriting is still freaking egregious. I'm learning to draw. I've got like drawings on my, I know you can't see it from where I got drawings on my bench. Like I'm learning to Sharpie draw. I'm good with Sharpie. I can write my name on people's faces when they're passed out. Like that's my, I've always been good with a Sharpie. Like there was no creative talent whatsoever. So if it's something like Hobby Lobby, like it's like $10 for like this 10-pound thing of clay, or go get Play-Doh. It tastes delicious. Don't eat Play-Doh. I'm saying, like, my kid hit kindergarten. I'm like, this is awesome. I can eat Play-Doh again. Oh my gosh. But I'm saying, like, find some kind of creative outlet. Go and buy a 2x4 and a box of nails and a hammer. And just literally just hammer this shit out of the nails into the 2x4. Find a way to do something that is not sitting in the house and feeling bad for yourself. When you focus on something that is outside of yourself, regardless of what it is, then your energy is going to that. So, like, if you're focusing on your neighbor's a bitch, then that's what you're going to get. But if you focus on, I'm just going to nail these, I'm going to try to make them, make them all the same height, nail these. You're focusing on something outside of yourself.
That's sound advice, my friend. It's inspiration here. And I tell you what, this probably is a good time to launch into the red line round, because some of what you're talking about goes right into the red line, where you'll be able to just knock this out of the park. What the red line round is it's just 5 rapid fire questions. There's no right or wrong answer to them. Whatever pops into your head's the right answer. And you actually just teed the first one up and kind of shared it. Who or what has been your inspiration throughout your journey in the industry?
Oh, gosh. Jessie Combs was my first, as far as a woman that is just shattering glass ceilings. Yeah. I got to meet her in 2017. Just fucking immediately loved her. She's like everything, you have a hero, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I would love to meet your hero. And then you hear people that meet their heroes, and their heroes are assholes. In person, I met her, and she's just so deeply humbled. Like, she knew who I was. Like, I'm fangirling on her, and she's like, Barbie. I'm like, what? She's just like, so down to earth and just so badass, and just, oh man, just absolutely deeply admired just everything about her. And meeting Bogey, same thing, man. Just like, I fangirled on Bogey, and Bogey was totally just so down to earth, like immediately best friends with her, and just like the work ethic on both of them, the drive, the just shattering, opening the industry up for women, showing women that, yes, like, we can do it. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter who you are. If you want to, be a mechanic, you can. You want to be a welder, you can. Anyone can do it.
Absolutely.
So those two definitely my heroes.
Awesome. Barbie, where do you go, or what resources do you use when you want to learn something new or you get stuck?
First and foremost is probably YouTube. If I'm trying to figure out, like, if my social media isn't doing well, what's going on? And I look for new algorithms and stuff. So I look to YouTube a lot. I'm YouTube smart. When it comes to self-improvement, I dive into books. Right now, my favorite author is Ryan Holiday. He has written 3 of what I think are probably the best books that ever existed, and that is The Obstacle is the Way is number 1 on my list. Like, if you don't read anything else, read The Obstacle is the Way. Silence is a Key, which is the one I just finished today. I've read it like several times. Audiobook, like if I drive anywhere, I usually have got an audiobook running. Stillness is a Key, The Obstacle is a Way, and he's actually wrote quite a few books, but those three that deal with Stoicism and Stoic philosophies, I'm really getting into Stoicism, and I think it's just a gift.
You're going to have to provide me a list.
Yeah, I definitely will.
You've rattled off a few, and I'm like, oh, we got to share the list of Barbie's goodies here so folks can go check those out. So I'm totally going to have you email me those and include them.
I will do that. I'll give you my top 5 must-reads.
Heck yeah, man. Barbie, what excites you most about what you do?
Oh, unlimited potential. There's so much freedom in metal. There's so much freedom as an artist. I literally can do whatever the fuck I want to. I just incredibly had no idea my business would lead me where I am. I didn't intend to do what I'm doing. I just wanted to make art, but there's a limitless and freedom in I'm creating creatures right now, like characters and creatures. There's no limit. So if I want to put bat wings on a girl, I can. I just find this deep sense of fulfillment in creating the characters, and with metal, there's no limits to what I can do with them, and I'm bending this hard material to my will, which is pretty powerful feeling.
That's empowering.
It definitely is.
What is a personal habit or practice that has helped you significantly in this industry or your journey in the industry?
2 things. One I can talk about work-wise, and one is personal. Work-wise is just practice. I compete against myself every damn day. I do look to others for potentially where I want to be or for inspiration. But at the end of the day, I judge myself against myself. I will never look at another artist and go, oh, I wish my stuff isn't that good. No, I look at my art today and say, is it better than what it was yesterday? And that goes for anything that you're doing. Just a sidebar really quick, mentally, mental health-wise, anything in your personal life, do not judge yourself against anyone else, because you are judging your day 1 against someone else's day 100. And that's not fair. So if you're in AA, judge your day 1 against your day 1. Maybe you want to look at someone who's got 30 years sober. Judge your day 1. Try to be better today than what you were yesterday. That's the only way to win. When we judge ourselves against other people, it's a freaking lose game, man. You'll never win against someone else because you have no idea. You don't have the same experiences. The second thing that, if I can attest my success to anything personally, is actually meditation. I've done it since I was a kid. Not always all the time, and definitely in my dark time, I was not doing it. I say my dark time, and I'm sure there's a better word for it, but when I was screwing up, I wasn't. I meditate on an almost every single day basis. I have a playlist that I've made on YouTube of different meditation stuff, and I play it overnight on a loop while I sleep. Right now I'm actually working on money, but there's always I've got this spirit animal thing. I love animals. I'm very, very nature based, and so I have the first one is a spirit animal. That's the one I go to fall asleep listening to. The rest of them right now, I'm totally focused on money and raising my money mentality, and really honoring the pieces that I'm making. With my upbringing, it was kind of hard to be oh, this is $100, knowing I put 50 cents in scrap metal into it. But wrapping my brain around the fact there is nothing else like this.
That's right.
No one else will ever. So putting $100 on that is just shameful. So my money is definitely probably my last challenge, I'm going to say. I'll never stop being challenged, but as far as my self-improvement, I'll always work to improve myself, but the money's my last big hurdle that I'm just this one. This is just going to change everything when I get, it's about honoring myself, honoring my art. It's about honoring a lot of stuff. And that money, growing up with the money mentality that I had is, it is definitely, it's put me in really bad positions.
I'm so glad that you talked about that. It's something that we haven't talked about on the podcast, and it's so critical because it's just about personal worth. And there's personal worth, and then there's your business worth. And you go through this personal evolution where someone has their 9-to-5 job and, you know, their pay raises are directly proportionate to their own personal worth and the value that they feel they provide the company. And then it's a whole different level when it's your own business and understanding the worth around your own business and your own work. I'm so glad you brought that up. And Barbie, finally, what is your parting advice to other femcanics finding their way in the skilled trades industry?
Oh, that's so good. It comes down to practice. Whatever it is, whether you're a plumber or an auto mechanic or a welder, it's about honoring your craft by honoring your skills, which also honors yourself, and it goes back to the self-esteem. Your job in the skilled trades is to grow yourself into the best possible version of yourself that you can as a human being and as a tradesperson. Craftsmanship over everything, I think. It's just so, with me, with the craftsmanship, that's what led me into good self-esteem. Like, I'd finish a job and I'd be like, damn, girl, that's looking good, you know? And the thing is like, by honoring my craft, it allowed me to walk away feeling good each day. What had happened was people that are in the trades are seeing how I'm honoring myself and my craft. And that's how we're going to blow these, you know, glass ceilings open, is by going in and
yes,
putting in a damn good day of work and doing everything you can yourself, you know, asking for help if you need it, because everyone should, but also go in there and handle your shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, do whatever you can to improve yourself and bring as much value to the table as possible. There's a caveat to that. If you're not being treated with love and respect, then kick rocks and go find a place that will. Because there are so many places out there that are looking for skilled tradesmen, and they don't give a flying rat's ass what color you are or what your sex is. They want skilled tradesmen that'll go in and handle their stuff without an attitude, right? Without an attitude. Yeah, just go in and put in the best damn day of work that you possibly can. Honor yourself by being the best version of yourself everywhere. And again, if you're not being treated with love and respect, then kick rocks.
Love it.
There are people out there who will deeply honor exactly what you're doing.
And where and how can people connect with you, Barbie?
Oh, I'm easy to find, man. Just search Barbie the Welder on, let's see, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I'm new to TikTok in the last 6 months and madly in love with that. I'm really active on LinkedIn. It depends on what you're looking for, right? So each of the different social media platforms are letting me do different stuff. Facebook is like, you know, like, I guess my average stuff is Facebook. Like, my mom and dad are on there. I keep that mostly clean. Instagram, I put the welding, the badass stuff on there. YouTube is where I teach. So if you're looking to learn how to do metal art or how I'm making my sculptures to see how I make them, I share that. I got a new motorcycle, new to me. I'm going to be building that. So the bike build is going to be on YouTube. So if you like motorcycles, come check that out. I'm learning as I go. I have no freaking clue what I'm doing, but I figured out stuff before. LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn because it allows me to really put out that inspirational stuff that is, you know, I've got like this mix. I'm like, I got the badassery that I love to do. I love to do the goofiness. That's TikTok. So you can find my goofy side on TikTok. But like that inspirational stuff is LinkedIn, and just like, I love it because all the different platforms allow me to bring something a little bit different. So I might post the same picture on LinkedIn as I do on Instagram one day, but there's going to be a total different message on LinkedIn. So if you're following me on one and you want to know the other one, just go check it out. So I'm out there.
Barbie, thank you so much for being in the driver's seat today and your willingness to be vulnerable.
Awesome.
I have so much respect for you, not just as an artist and what you're doing as a business professional and as a business owner and representing women and helping women break through a glass ceiling. I think ultimately just you as a person, period. Kudos to you. I have mad love and respect for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's just such an honor for you guys to take your time and interview for this and share my story. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barbie.
My name is Barbie the Welder, and I'm a Femcanic.
Des Farrell is in the driver's seat next. She owns Nessie Customs, a shop where she specializes in custom paint and restorations. She was recently a featured contestant on Motor Trend's Bitchin' Boot Camp. Des brings us along her career journey and gives us a behind-the-scenes experience on Bitchin' Boot Camp. Be sure to tune in next week. Until next time, Femcanics. Thanks for listening to the Femcanic Garage podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Femcanic Garage. Check out our website, femcanicgarage.com, for swag and the transcribed for each episode. If you want to help grow this community, do me a favor and subscribe, rate, review, and most importantly, share this podcast. Spread the word. This is Jamie B. signing off. Are you a Femcanic?